Imagine you're going to a very important party and you want to wear black shoes, but your partner wants you to wear brown shoes. How would you negotiate this situation? Many people believe that a win-win situation or a draw is the best outcome in a negotiation. If you think so too, can you tell me what a win-win situation would look like in this example? Are you going to wear black shoes and brown shoes? Sounds ridiculous, right? That's not how Chris Voss thinks, the author of the New York Times bestseller entitled Negotiate as if your life depended on it. Voss worked for over 20 years as a hostage negotiator for the FBI, dealing with kidnappers, bank robbers, and terrorists. And he has found that the knowledge he acquired as a hostage negotiator also applies to a wide range of business and personal life situations, since the fundamentals of human negotiation are essentially the same in any situation, no matter what age, gender, or ethnicity. Negotiating with a terrorist and negotiating with a businessman are based on the same principles. We negotiate every day, like when you try to get your children to go to bed earlier, or when you try to convince a friend to go to a different restaurant. Our whole lives are made up of negotiations, and Chris says that negotiation isn't about your way or my way. Negotiation is about finding a third way and making both sides happy. For example, let's say your two children are fighting over chocolate and can't share it no matter how you divide it. Both are dissatisfied and think the other has won more. The third way is to ask one child to divide the chocolate equally and then ask the other child to choose and take a piece first. In this video, I'll explain two of the main ideas from the book that are fundamental to any negotiation. Every negotiation begins with the universal law that people want to be understood and accepted. Knowing how to listen is the cheapest and most effective strategy we can use to get there. By listening carefully, you demonstrate empathy and a sincere desire to understand what the other side is experiencing. You wouldn't believe how many people fail to listen when the other side starts talking instead of listening. They start thinking about what they'll say when he stops talking. And when he stops, they give their opinion regardless of what the other side has just said or thinks. He didn't hear a word I said. I'm sure you've experienced this. Sometimes you're talking to someone and you feel you're talking about different subjects. People often shout in negotiations because they feel they're not being listened to. Everyone wants two things in negotiations: to be understood and to be respected. So you won't get what you want from the negotiation if you fail to listen. People who see negotiation as a battle of arguments are overwhelmed by the voices in their heads. But the truth is that negotiation is not a battle, it's an act of discovery. The aim is to find out what the other side wants. Is it money, time, respect, and recognition? To do this, the author recommends several strategies. In this video, we'll talk about the method called accusation auditing. It's an effective technique, especially if you know that your opponent is angry and has bad feelings towards you. Before going into the meeting, think about all the negative things your opponent might say against you during the negotiation. Then, once you've identified all the negative feelings, go around them. For example, let's say you know that your client is very dissatisfied because your company didn't meet the deadline and didn't deliver what was promised. The good thing about this is that you know that your opponent thinks you're unreliable and unable to keep your promises. So, as soon as you start the meeting, you can neutralize the negative by saying, "It may seem like we're deceiving you, and we're not able to keep our promises by not delivering what was agreed. And that's why you might even consider not doing business with us anymore, and you're absolutely right to think so." The moment you say that your opponent thinks, "Well, he thinks like me, maybe he's not so bad." If you didn't neutralize the negative feelings, your opponent would spend hours explaining how bad he feels. But now that you've used this technique, your opponent is more focused on implementation than on complaining. Negative emotions and the fear of losing affect our brains 3 times more than positive emotions. So help your opponent get rid of negative feelings and you'll get a much better result.